Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's GMAT Verbal Reasoning session. I'm excited to jump into some critical reasoning and reading comprehension questions with you. Our goal today is to not only understand how to approach these questions, but also develop strategies for analyzing and interpreting complex information. Okay, so here is what we will be covering in today's session. The first one, you would find out a reading comprehension, RC related passage. We will start with the passage discussing the concept, right? Um, Concept of one of the text given here, right? And then after we will jump to the question, uh, which is given here. After that, we'll also follow some of the reading comprehension questions and some of the um, their questions with the options, right? Beside that, we'll also follow some critical reasoning questions, right? We have a couple of critical reasoning questions that will test your ability uh, to evaluate arguments and identify logical structure, right? Logical structure. These questions are designed, you can say that, to challenge your understanding of, you can say that, cause and effect relationship, cause and effect relationships, and assumptions underlying arguments, isn't it? So after you can find out that some of the questions, question types, if you talk about that. So for our reading comprehension, so you can point out, um, you will find out some except based questions, right? Um, we will tackle some except based question. These requires actually um, a student to identify which statement is not supported by the passage, right? So even some questions are pointed to what least likely to improve. You can find out that. Yes. So some of the least likely based questions. Um, and these questions generally ask you to find the option that least likely to resolve the issue described in the passage. Um, Beside that, also some questions are um, presented with the most appropriate, right? Yeah. So you can point out that most appropriate best questions. Um, so, and when we talk about most appropriate relationship, we can talk about these focus on understanding the nature of relationships described in the passage. And beside that, we talk about the some or couple of critical reasoning questions which will be addressed. So among them, you would find out questions related to similar pattern or called as a similar reasoning based questions. You can say that most similar reasoning question, identifying arguments that follow a similar logical pattern, isn't it? Um, in this, we'll find out that which of the choice that's similar to the idea presented in the argument. Beside that, also we talk about some um, you can say that explaining discrepancy, right? So which of the following, if true, best explains the discrepancy outlined above, right? So finding explanation for unexpected result based on the given information for each question. So we will read through all the questions and passes carefully before we jump to the question. So, but what a candidate needs to do, a candidate need to analyze the reasoning behind each answer choice, identify, uh, you can say that why the correct answer is appropriate and also why the other options are not, right? So if I talk about the key strategies presented in each of the question types. Let's say that the first one is called as a reading comprehension. So I can say that for reading comprehension, what we need to do, we need to focus on understanding the passage main idea. We need to focus on passage main ideas, right? The author's intent, and how different different pieces of pieces of informations are connected. So similar to that for critical reasoning, mm, you can talk about that for critical reasoning. Um, we need to pay close attention to the structure of the argument given, right? So um, the assumptions made and how changes might affect the argument. So what my thought is called as I encourage all the means learner or reader to participate actively, ask questions, right, and discuss your reasoning as we walk through each problem and think about the questions. This interactive approach will help deepen our understanding and improve our problem solving skills. Okay, so let's get started with our first question on reading comprehension, right? So what I will do here, I will read the passage first, right? And then we will jump into the different kind of means thoughts that we draw from the text, like what this text is all about, what is the main idea of the text, what is the tone of the author, and what is the style of the passage. So these are called as components that we need to draw from the text. While we read, we understand, we analyze, and we we jump to the difficult words and its meaning or their meaning. So then we jump to the question's answer, isn't it? So let's get started. The first one. So before we jump to the text, let me point out what is the direction of the question. So the direction stated here. Wait a minute. Okay. Okay. So the direction of the question is what? The direction of the question stated here. Answer the following questions based on the information provided below, isn't it? So let's read the text first. So the text stated here, the practice of quiet quitting is not anything new. In the cult satirical movie Office Space, protagonist means referring to the main character, isn't it? Main character. So, who is the main character? Peter Gibbons, who played by Ron Livingston, had quietly quit his job at the fictional corporate hellhole in a take long before the story even started. As he admits, his typical day consists of him sneaking in late and staring at his desk for hours. So I would say in a given week, I probably do about 15 minutes of real, actual work. Peter says, my only real motivation is not to be hassled, right? That and the fear of losing my job. But that will only make someone work just hard enough not to get fired. That quote is textbook, quite quitting. And remember, Office Space came out in 1999, isn't it? 25 years ago, the data backs this up. Gallup survey results show that only 33% of US employees were engaged at work in 2023. That's low, but only a 3-point deep from 2020's high of 36%. Look further back in the data, and you will notice that 33% is slightly above the engagement average for the entire odds and much higher than the 25% low of 2000. The only thing novel about quite quitting is the name, which is admittedly quite catchy. So that's not to say it is not a problem. It's just a problem organizations have been facing for some time. If quiet quitting does die, it will be because the term is no longer cool on TikTok. So John Clifton, another character, so CEO of Gallup, writes, what did he write? But the feeling behind the trend is not going anywhere. Organizations are not without recourse, though. According to executive advisor Tiffany Bova, quiet quitting can be remedied and employee engagement boosted. To start that process, leaders must shift towards what Bova calls the experience mindset. Bova describes the experience mindset as the virtuous cycle between happy employees and happy customers. Customers' experiences tend to be excellent when employees are willing to go above and beyond to meet their needs. At the same time, employees' experiences tend to be excellent when they are engaged, open to collaboration, and able to derive satisfaction from their role. The cycle is virtuous because happy employees lead to happy customers, which leads to growth. But notice something about that statement. It starts with the employees. If your employees are not happy, there is no way to get the lift or the improvement in growth of the on the customer side. Boba tells big thing, but what had disrupted that cycle in recent decade? As with any long-lasting large-scale trend, there are many casual factors at play. But Boba laid some of the blame on the digital revolution as organizations focused on reducing friction on the customer side. They subsequently increased the barriers faced by employees and the effort necessary to overcome them. Boa offers an example from e-commerce, ever shorter delivery times. So obviously, customers prefer receiving their purchases sooner rather than later. However, the down push to bring times down from 5 days to 2 days to next day placed unrealistic expectations and pressures on employees. Customer satisfaction may have risen or so, but the employee experience suffered in turn. Another cause is a sharp decline in role clarity. According to Gallup, fewer than 50% of employees know what is expected of them on any given day, a group that include on-site, remote, and hybrid workers. Unsurprisingly, knowing what you are supposed to do at work correlates with the productivity, well-being, and engagement. Those are just two causes of quite quitting and potential solution that will vary uh, depending on the cause as well as the industry. With that said, an underlying principle for those solutions will be the need for readers to shift an experience mindset, right? So, as we have understood the text, so what does the text try to introduce, or what does the try means this particular text tries to tell us? If you see that what the passage the passage introduces the concept of what? You can say that quite quitting, isn't it? Concept of what? Concept of quite quitting, explaining that it is not a new phenomenon. It is not a new phenomenon. So you can say that it references the movie Office Spaces, or sorry, Office Space, right, where the protagonist, whose name is called as Peter Givens, played by Ron Livingston, right, and exhibits nothing but a classic behavior of quite quitting, right? Classic behavior of what? Classic behavior of quite quitting. In that case, you can say that by doing nothing but a minimal work, right? So at the fictional corporate hellhole intake long before the story even started, as he admits, his typical day consists of him sneaking in late and looking at his desk for hours, right? So in that case, if you talk about that, um, he is motivated only by the fear of what? Um, Fear of getting fired, nothing else, right? So that's what he pointed. My only real motivation is not to be hassled or fired. That and the fear of losing my job, isn't it? So, which causes him to do just enough to avoid it, right? So, you can say that what the movie is released in 1999. When did the movie release? You can say that the movie releases or released in the year of 1999. Shows that what this idea has been around for at least 25 years. Got my point? So after that, if you talk about um, then what does it actually tell us? It tells nothing but what quiet quitting involves. Quiet quitting involves with what? You can say that quiet quitting involves employees doing only the bare minimum required to keep their job. And this concept is nothing but a humorously, right? And that's what is called as a depicted when depicted in the movie Office Space, right? So you can say that what the way the text is defined in the first paragraph shows that what it is a kind of a conversational. So the style can be known as a conversational with cultural references, and you can say that what the tone is nothing but a normal and slightly humorous also, right? So that's what you would find out when we talk about the idea called as a cult satirical movie. So what do you mean by that? When we say that called satirical movie, so this indicates nothing but called as a film that is dedicated fan base and uses humor, irony, or exaggeration to criticize something, isn't it? So, which you would find out that called it's a called satirical movie. So, which one is a called satirical movie? Office Space. So, this can be called as a use of what humor, irony, or exaggeration to criticize something. Similar to that, after the first paragraph, we can also say that what um, the second paragraph, which is stated about nothing but what Gallup survey's results show that only 33% of US employees were engaged at work in 2020. So this part discusses nothing but a survey data from Gallup that shows that only 33% of US employees were engaged at work in 2023, right? A slightly, you can say that decrease from, you can say 2020, isn't it? So 2020. So beside that also it is stated historically this percentage has hovered around a low level, indicating that quiet quitting has been a, you can say, persistent use, right? Persistent use or continuous use. We also find out that what it is a low level, indicating nothing but a persistent issue, right? But at the same time, if you talk about the the idea which is presented here is nothing but a engagement at work. Engagement, engagement at work has been consistently low, uh, for decades, right or not? Suggesting that quiet quitting is an ongoing issue rather than a new trend. It is not a new trend, it is nothing but an ongoing issue. So here you would find out the style of the text of this particular paragraph is nothing but informative and analytical. So that's what you would find out. And after this, you would also find out in the paragraph three, right, or third paragraph, means where it is stated about John Clifton, isn't it? So it is stated about TikTok CEO whose name is called as John Clifton, or you can say, sorry, it is stated it will be because the term is no longer cool on TikTok. John Clifton, yeah, CEO of Gallup, who suggests that the term quiet quitting, right? The term quiet quitting might lose popularity on social media platforms like TikTok. Yes, that's what it is trying to say. But the underlying sentiment of disengagement will continue. So even if the term quiet quitting falls out of use. So the author said that the lack of employee engagement will remain a kind of a challenge, right? So in that case, it is clear and direct. So it is something called as a pragmatic tone, isn't it? So beside that, it is also introduced another character which name is called as a Tiffany Bova, right? Tiffany Bova. So Uh, what Tiffany Bova said here. So if you talk about that, Tiffany Bova is none other than means an executive advisor that suggests or who suggests that what organization can address quiet quitting by adopting a what kind of a mind? Experience mind, right? So you can say that what he pointed, experiencing mindset, which nurtures a positive feedback loop between satisfied employees and happy customers, right? So happy customers. So in that case, to combat quiet quitting, organizations should focus on what? Creating positive experiences for employees, which in turn leads to better customer satisfaction. So here the author does nothing but explain, right? So, and the tone is nothing but a positive and encouraging one, right? So, in the next part, where we talk about what means how Boba emphasizes that happy employees are the foundation of business growth, right? Business growth. So it is stated that happy employees lead to happy customers, which leads to, you can say that growth, right? But at the same time, the author also said that what means it implies that without employee satisfaction, organization cannot improve customer experiences or growth. So in that case, employee happiness is essential for organizational growth and success. So here the author is trying to present the style of persuasive and adjective, and the tone is nothing but called as adjective in nature. So Boba also identifies what? Uh, Boba identifies the digital revolution. What did he say? He talks about nothing but the digital revolution, right? So in which he pointed, um, yeah, digital revolution, sure, right. So Bova laid some of the blame on the digital revolution. And why? Now, because he pointed that it is as a disruptive behavior or factor that has strained the employee experience by focusing too much on customer satisfaction, often at the expense of employees. So in that case, if you talk about Bova's blame on the digital revolution, he pointed organization focused on reducing friction on the customer side. They subsequently increased the barrier faced by employees and the effort necessary to overcome them. Right? So here the focus is on improving customer experience during the digital revolution has nothing but inadvertently made employees work more challenging. So the author is trying to analyze, right? Analyze and present a kind of a critical and reflective one. So then if we go to the next one, what do we find out? The example that Bova pointed here, right? That called as a what did he say? Ever shorter delivery times. Obviously, customer prefer receiving their purchases sooner rather than later, right? So he pointed that the example of reduced delivery times in e-commerce that describe how efforts to satisfy customers can increase stress and expectation for employees. So in that case, it is indicating efforts to enhance customer satisfaction, like faster delivery times can negatively impact employees, right? So in that case, the author is trying to illustrative and explaining, right? So in that case, in the next para, the author also said that what another cause, isn't it? Here it is stated, no, however, the push to bring times down from 5 days to 2 days to next day placed unrealistic expectation and pressures on employees. Then after it is stated, customer satisfaction may have risen, but the employee experience suffered in turn. Another cause is also there, which is a sharp decline in role clarity. According to Gallup, right? Who pointed that what means um, quite quitting is nothing but the lack of clarity in employees' roles, which correlate with nothing but a lower productivity and engagement, isn't it? Um, so he pointed that nothing but correlate with the uh, productivity, well-being, and engagement, and those are nothing but the just two causes of quiet quitting. So in that case, it is nothing but a unclear job roles contribute to disengagement, which is a factor in quiet quitting. right? And the last paragraph where he concludes by stating that while the causes of vary, quiet quitting vary, so a fundamental solution is for leaders to adopt an experience mindset, isn't it? Experience mindset. So he also point out that a fundamental solution is for leaders to adopt an experience mindset. In that case, the author addressed quiet quitting requires a shift in what? Leadership. Leadership approach to prioritize employee experience experience or experiences. So in that case, we can say the last one is nothing but a conclusive one and prescriptive one, right? Prescriptive. And the tone is nothing but conclusive and advisory, right? Conclusive and advisory. Overall, if you talk about that, the whole text uh, indicating about what? Discussing the concept of quiet quitting, where employees do the minimum required work due to a lack of engagement. It explained that this phenomenon is not new and as depicted in the 99 movie Office Space. Data suggests that low employee engagement has been a consistent issue for decades. So what is that? Low employee engagement. Engagement is nothing but a consistent issue for decades. The term here the author is mentioned, it's called as a quiet quitting. So may lose its trendiness, but the issue remains but the issue remains, and you would find out leaders are encouraged to focus on an experience mindset, experience mindset to improve employee engagement. Recognizing that happy employees lead to satisfied customer and business growth. Cause of disengagement include unrealistic expectations due to digital transformation and unclear job roles. So overall, we can also find out tone and style of the text is what? The tone of the passage is nothing but analytical. You can also say reflective. You can also say that advisory with a mix of humor in the introduction. So, and the style is nothing but a blend of the style is nothing but blend of blend means mixed of conversational and conversational means with cultural references and informative with data and expert opinions, isn't it? So that is what you would find out in this particular text. Hope you understood this. Now, let's move to the question. What does the question try to tell us? So we will discuss the question, and then after we will eliminate the option and try to find out which option is better or the best, means best of all the four, right? So let's jump to the question. So the question asked here, which of the following is least likely to improve, right? So which of the following is least likely to improve employee engagement according to the passage? Now, what is the question asked? The question asks which option would be uh, the least effective, isn't it? Least likely means least effective in improving employee engagement based on the information provided in the passage. So here the goal is what? The goal is to identify identify an action that either does not directly that either does not directly improve employee engagement or could potentially have a negative 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 impact on it, isn't it? Now let's look into each and every option and try to find out which of the option that comes with the answer. So as you know that five of the options are provided in each question that you meet in a GMAT. So the first option stated that what? Implementing clearer role expectation for employees. Excuse me. So, if you talk about that implementing clearer role expectation for employees, so the passage mentioned that a role, lack of role clarity, lack of role clarity is nothing but a cause. Cause of what? Cause of quite quitting. It states that what? Understanding what is expected of them improves employees' productivity. Well-being, isn't it? It is stated that well-being, what else? That you can also say that engagement, right? Productivity, well-being, and engagement. So these are the things. So in that case, uh, if you talk about that, the first option, option A, right? Uh, which is directly suggested as a way to improve employee engagement, isn't it? Implementing clearer role expectations for employees. So, option B, which is stated reducing frictions on the customer side of operations. Now, when I talk about this particular one, if you see the passage discusses what? The passage discusses that while reducing friction on the customer side, reducing friction on the customer side may increase customer satisfaction. It can lead to increased pressures and you can say that unrealistic expectations for employees. And this has nothing but a negative effect on the employee experience and engagement. So if I look into option B, right, which is indicating what means the correct answer option. So this indicates that what reducing friction on the customer side does not improve employee engagement. In fact, what does it do? It can harm, it can harm it by adding pressure pressure on employees' engagement. In fact, it can harm it by adding pressure on employees, right? Therefore, you can say that this option is least likely to improve employee engagement, isn't it? So, option B proves the correct one here. But look at the other option. So, A is wrong, as we understood that. C, we need to find out that whether she is better than option B or not. She said, shifting towards an experienced mindset for leaders. So the passage actually emphasizes the importance of the experienced mindset for leaders, which focuses on the, you can say that interconnected well-being of both employees and customers. A mindset, positive mindset employee experiences linked to increased engagement, right or not? So this approach is explicitly or clearly, explicitly, you can say that recommended as a way to improve employee engagement, isn't it? So hence you can say that the author doesn't agree with it, right? Option A and option C is eliminated. D said ensuring employees understand what is expected of them, right? So it is same like option A, right? Similar to option A, the passage highlights that knowing what is expected is crucial for productivity, well-being, and engagement. Clear expectations help employees feel more engagement, right or not? So in that case, this option is directly suggested. Suggested what? As a way to improve employee engagement. So like option A, D is also eliminated. Now, the last option, addressing unrealistic pressures and expectations on employees. Now, this option is again called as a direct suggestion, or you can say directly suggested as a way of improving employee engagement, right? So, you can say that what option E addressing unrealistic pressures and expectation on employees. So it seems like what the passage means. As for the passage discusses how unrealistic expectations you can say ever set, ever shorter means always reduce delivery time, right? So can negatively impact employees. Addressing this pressure would improve their experience and you can say engagement. So this is identified as an important factor in improving employee engagement by reducing undue pressure. So hence you can say the author agrees with it. So the author agrees with option A, C, D, and E. Hence, they are not least likely to improve employee engagements. Option B is the most appropriate one because option B reducing stated about reducing friction on the customer side while beneficial for, you can say that, customers can increase pressure on employees and lead to decreased engagement. The other options are nothing but, you can say that, um, strategies mentioned in the passage as ways to improve employment engagement, isn't it? So in that case, option B would be the appropriate answer to the question given here. Option B is the correct answer. Hope you understood this. That's all. Thank you.